Hola. Mars here, everybody. Man with the big pen and the even bigger mouth. It's been measured by scientists and stuff. Anyways, let me get started here. I wanted to kind of jump in here, and since we're just a few days out from President Trump's inaugural fake news awards, I thought I would tie together a couple things that have been kind of getting under my craw lately related to our POTUS and the liberal media propaganda circus. So let's start with the subject of today's cartoon, which is genius. Now, what comes to mind when I say that word, genius? If you're like 99% of people, you're probably thinking about Albert Einstein right now. So here's an interesting thing. Some of the best quotes about what genius really is actually came straight from the mouth of Albert Einstein. And one of my favorite quotes from Einstein is something he said about genius as it relates to consensus. He said, "Genius abhors consensus because when consensus is reached, thinking stops. Stop nodding your head." That's the quote. And what's funny about this to me is, I hear people all the time talking about what an idiot President Trump is supposed to be. Let me get in here and actually finish him out just a little bit. Some eyeballs, some eyes here. Get these two things even, Steven. And put the little, I don't want to make him look too bad. A little eyeball here, and come over here, draw the other one. And so, anyways, when I hear these people talk about President Trump being an idiot and how big of an idiot he's supposed to be because he's so disagreeable and constantly breaking with protocol and consensus, it really makes me laugh, because one of the characteristics of genius, at least according to the best known genius ever, is that genius is not about being agreeable or about giving in to consensus. So the other day when President Trump sent that tweet out about, having to, a track record of going from a real estate billionaire to a top TV star to basically the leader of the free world, it got me thinking about the real secret to how he's pulled all that stuff off. And as a marketer who's had some, I've had some pretty good success, I'll tell you, what I get out of tweets like the Stable Genius tweet is this, and I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack about this, but what I see with President Trump is a subtle pattern that fits perfectly with how a genius-level influencer would handle the kind of things he's got to handle. Let me finish this hair up here. A little bit of crazy Donald Trump hair. Squiggle, 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 squiggle. So I'll tell you exactly when I first started picking up on this thing I'm talking about. I don't know if you remember the first Republican debate when Megyn Kelly asked Trump about some of his more negative comments related to women. Every other politician in the world would have handled it one of two ways, either by trying to change the subject or by denying it. But not Trump. No. What did he do? He says, "Yeah, only with Rosie O'Donnell." And it was completely inappropriate, and he called a lot of flack for it. But to me, it was obvious that he'd picked a person who, first of all, you could visualize. Threw up in the back of my mouth just a little bit there. And second of all, he knew that his base sees her as a repugnant figure who, basically would just bring all their fire and hatred into one tiny little point, conveniently located in the opposite direction of the point Megyn Kelly was trying to get him to address. So what I realized is this. Let me finish Einstein's eyebrow up here. And I realized that I needed to keep an eye on him, because I was amazed. I was like, whoa, did he just really do that? And sure enough, look who's POTUS. And I have to admit, even I didn't see that coming. So with all the nonsense the liberal media's been pulling, especially lately, it's just getting worse. I have made a command decision, okay? As of this video, this cartoon I'm drawing for you right now, I am officially throwing in the towel when it comes to trying to negotiate with liberal terrorists, okay? We got a lot of stuff to get done in the next 3 years, and since Trump seems to actually be getting it done, I am completely and totally through with apologizing for the stuff he does that pisses liberal zombies and their masters off. So I officially declare, right here and right now, that I think it's the best thing ever that we finally got a president with enough balls to call a shithole country a shithole. In fact, I'm going to come out and say that I think the most genius thing Trump does is say stuff like that. Why? Why do I say that? Because it distracts the easily distractible brains so he can actually get important stuff done. And to me, it's his brashness, his rudeness, his general uncouthness that's allowed him to actually get things done that nobody else can or I don't think ever will. His vulgarity, which we're all supposed to pretend is some sort of fatal flaw and, we're supposed to apologize for it, is actually his secret weapon and it's part of his genius. And I'm talking about his absolute refusal to go along with consensus, like Einstein said, the mark of a true genius. Stop nodding, D-I-N-I-N-G, your head, which is what everybody does when they go along with consensus, right? And to prove a point, here's let's talk about Iran, okay? Let me make the point by talking about Iran. If the revolt that's going on over there succeeds, it could be a complete game changer, and not just for the Middle East. I'm talking about for the entire world. So if you can guess, see if you can guess the name of the only world leader who gets this idea. Here's a clue. It's Disrespectful Donnie. I just made that up. He's the only one who gets it. And the other day, he sent out a tweet in support of the rebels, whereas when Barack Obama was in office, he openly rejected American greatness and abjectly surrendered to Islam, And to put this into perspective for you, imagine that you're a young Iranian woman who's been imprisoned as punishment for appearing in public without your hijab in protest of the Islamic regime. Imagine that you've been gang raped by the guards in the shithole cell of your shithole prison as part of your shithole state-sanctioned imprisonment. And imagine that in the shithole cell next door, you can hear the screams of one of your fellow protesters who's being tortured. Now, chances are this misery is only going to end for you when some kangaroo court sentences you to death by firing squad or maybe, by hanging you from a crane. And that's not made up, by the way. It's the kind of thing that's going on right now in Iran as I'm talking and drawing, okay? Now, let me ask you this. If you're that Iranian woman, who would you prefer to be in charge of U.S. foreign policy? Option A, smooth-talking Barry Obama, a guy who would never use a phrase like shithole in polite company, like of his contemporaries. Not that any room full of career politicians should ever be mistaken as truly polite, but you would never hear good old Barry using an accurate term like shithole to describe a shithole like Iran. He might call it a shit show, but never a shithole. Or how about option B? Donald Trump, the guy who knows a shithole when he sees one, calls it a shithole because it is a shithole, then actually does something about it. Let's face it, some countries are shitholes, plain and simple, and to claim that this is racist is racist, okay? It just is racist. These shitholes are not shitholes because of the color of the populace. They're shitholes because of bad ideas, because of corrupt government, because of religious extremism and broken culture. And good old Barry preferred to let them stay that way because he was far more concerned with consensus than he was with doing what needed to be done, all right? And President Trump, on the other hand, he could care less about consensus. He's here to get stuff done. And from now on, I will not make apologies for his disregard of consensus. Consensus is not the president's job. It's Congress's job, okay? So I say thank you for breaking protocol, and please continue ignoring consensus, you very stable genius. And I predict that one day, the rest of the world will thank you right along with me. And that's about all for me today. Be sure to click like or dislike, if I pissed you off. Subscribe to my Draw the Line Mars YouTube channel. But most importantly, click the link below to subscribe to my personal list right now. It's a lot of fun. Obviously, many of the things I rant about here are not exactly, social media friendly, and I can't say everything I want. So go ahead and subscribe to my list, and you're going to get early announcements when I release new episodes and things like that, plus some uncensored stuff where I can actually say what I want. So I will see you in the comments, and yes, I try to respond, even if you type everything in all caps, because you're really, really liberal. Mars out.